Alright, so today I want to show you what I consider to be some of the best pattern enhancing genes in ball pythons. Those genes that you can mix in with other combinations to really change the pattern, really have a dramatic effect, either reducing the pattern or really jumbling up and scrambling the pattern. And pretty much the definition of a gene in ball pythons is that the gene is a genetic trait that changes the color or the pattern. So I'd say most genes do change the pattern to a certain degree, but these genes are pretty much the most extreme examples where you can actually mix them in and have some really dramatic effects as far as changing mainly the pattern in a lot of your combinations. So today I want to jump over the internet and I want to show you a few of these amazing pattern enhancing genes. Alright, so I want to jump over here at Morphmarket.com and I want to start with just a normal, classic, wild type ball python so you can see what a normal pattern looks like, and then we'll add the pattern enhancing genes so you can see what kind of an effect it has on scrambling up the pattern. And this is actually a normal. The normals can really vary from one to the other, and this is pretty much the most normal looking normal that I could find over here on Morphmarket. Usually the normals, I'd say in most cases, have these little, almost looks like a Roswell gray alien head on the side of this thing. This one has quite a few of them all in a row. Sometimes they can be reduced a little bit, and sometimes in the normals you can have a little bit of a scrambled up pattern, but I'd say in most cases this is typically what it looks like. And a lot of times they'll actually have these little dots right on the back, and sometimes they'll have dots and a few stripes here and there, but it's usually not genetic. It's not reproducible. So you breed a normal to another normal and you kind of get some variation, but a lot of times they'll all come out looking pretty much like this. So when it comes to genetic manipulation as far as the pattern, I'd say there's one gene that really stands out that I think is like the king of the pattern mutation as far as working it into other combinations, and that is the leopard. Take a look at this. This is what a leopard looks like. And this is, I'd say this is kind of an extreme example of a leopard. Sometimes the leopards can look almost normal, I'd say just a little bit scrambled up, and this, all the way to a really extreme example like this where it just completely wipes out the pattern. And usually you can tell you have a leopard because a leopard is a dark gene. It really darkens the background. You can definitely see on this one it almost is like inkjet as far as the background on the back of the snake. And you can actually see on this one it really scrambled up the pattern on the side. It's kind of interesting. I've seen some leopards that look just a little bit more scrambled up than a normal, but when you mix the leopard in with other combinations it really explodes and makes some amazing combinations. So here's another one that's pretty popular. I'd say this is probably the #2 gene as far as enhancing the pattern. And the leopard really scrambles up the pattern, and the Anchi is kind of just the opposite. What the Anchi does is it really reduces the pattern, takes the pattern. A lot of times it'll actually turn it into kind of these tiger stripes, which is kind of interesting. And a lot of times it doesn't always reduce it into the tiger stripes. Sometimes it kind of, reduces it and it kind of jumbles it up a little bit. I'd say maybe about half of the Anchis that I've seen actually have these stripes, and the other half are just kind of jumbled up with a reduced pattern. And actually you can actually take the Anchi, breed it to another Anchi, and make a super Anchi with 2 copies of the gene. I actually pulled up a super Anchi, and take a look what 2 copies of the Anchi does. It's pretty amazing. And kind of the interesting thing about the Anchi is it also brings out a lot of the yellows and oranges in a lot of combinations. It'll really brighten a lot of combinations. You can see on this one it's definitely a lot brighter as far as the yellow, and the leopard's just kind of opposite. The leopard darkens the background and the Anchi kind of brightens it, which is pretty interesting. So take a look at this. I actually pulled up a snake over here. So actually, if you actually had this snake, this is a really beautiful snake. This is a hypo coral glow, really amazing combination. And this snake right here it's kind of interesting. The coral glow looks pretty much like this as a standalone gene. A lot of times the coral glows can have almost like normal looking alien heads and normal looking patterns on the side, but the coral glow is pretty much known for its yellow color. It's really visually dominant when you work it into other combinations. And you add the hypo, which is the ghost, and it really brings out a lot of these purplish colors, which is pretty awesome. So if you're actually to take this snake and you wanted to change the pattern, really enhance it and really just make it pop, what you could actually do is you could add the combination of the super Anchi and the leopard, both pattern enhancing genes, and take a look at what happens when you add those two jeans. It completely transforms it into a Hypo Coral Glow Super Anchi Leopard. Take a look at this crazy snake. That is really amazing. And just take a look at the pattern on this. And you can definitely tell the Leopard really scrambles it up. A lot of times these pattern enhancing jeans work really well together when you combine them. And you're actually taking the Anchi and reducing it into almost little spots. It almost looks like little Dalmatian spots or something on this thing. I was actually looking at the price on this one. This is pretty amazing. It actually sold in 2019 for $1,000. Pretty amazing. I actually bought one similar to this. I bought a Banana Anchi Clown, which is really awesome. And kind of the cool thing about mixing the Anchi in with the Coral Glow, especially the Super Anchi, and no, I think just one copy of the Anchi too, is it actually reduces all the spots. So on my Anchi Coral Glow, it's actually an Anchi banana. The banana and the Coral Glow are pretty much the same thing, but on that particular snake, and probably on this one, I can almost guarantee that as this ages and matures, it won't get the typical freckles that the Coral Glows actually get. If you actually take a Coral Glow by itself and you grow it up, it gets all these little tiny freckles all over it. It's kind of interesting. It's like someone took an ink pen and just made all these little splotches all over the snake. And it's kind of the characteristic of the banana and the Coral Glow gene. And for some reason, when you mix it with Anchi, it pretty much eliminates the spots as it ages and matures. But this is a really amazing combination. So here's another gene that is another pattern enhancing gene that's pretty new in ball pythons. It hasn't been out too long, I'd say, just long enough to really hit the mainstream market. They're pretty expensive too. I'm thinking about getting into the Confusion at some point. This is actually Confusion. A lot of people think that the Confusion is the same thing as the acid gene or the static gene. Some people think they're maybe different lines of the same gene. Some people think they're actually just different, different people discovered them and named them different names. Sometimes that happens, and then further down the road they realize that, hey, this is all the same gene. Kind of like the banana and the Coral Glow. I'm pretty sure those two are exactly the same. And kind of the interesting thing about the Confusion is it's kind of interesting. You can actually work it into other genes. I'd say it's similar to the Leopard, except it's almost like the Leopard on steroids. It really is extremely pattern enhancing. It's also a dark gene. I've seen a lot of combinations with the Confusion, and it seems like in most of the combinations it really darkens it like the Leopard. Almost seems like it's maybe like a souped up version of the Leopard. It's pretty amazing. So you can actually take the Confusion and breed it with the Leopard, and take a look at this. This is pretty amazing. This is the Confusion Leopard. Crazy combination. And just look at how it just completely jumbles up the pattern. Probably one of the most amazing combinations with just two simple genes that are pattern enhancing genes, and both of them are dark genes. So you actually take the Confusion and the Leopard, and it makes this really super jet black background, which is pretty amazing. I can actually, I look at this, I'm like, there's so many awesome things you can actually add to this to really make the yellows pop. You can actually add, like Yellow Belly or Orange Dream or Fire or Pastel, and you can make a really amazing combination. I was actually looking at the price on this one. I've been thinking about investing in this project, but this one actually sold for $2,500. It's going to take me a little while to actually, come up with that kind of money. Usually what I do is I sell a bunch of hatchlings and then use that money to invest in another project. This year I actually bought my Banana Anchi Clown. I'm thinking maybe next year I might buy my Leopard. No, probably not a Leopard Confusion. I'll probably just buy a Confusion and work it into other genes. But that is a really amazing combination. So this is kind of interesting. This is the spot nose, and kind of the weird thing about the spot nose is if you look at the spot nose just by itself, sometimes certain spot noses can look almost like a normal as far as the pattern. There's not much of a difference between the pattern. This one you can definitely tell it's a little bit reduced, a little bit jumbled up, and usually I'd say in almost all cases you can tell you have a spot nose because you have a really crazy head stamp right on top of the head, really crazy pattern. And the spot nose, let me tell you, when you work it into other combinations, it really explodes a lot of patterns. It's almost like a sleeper morph when it comes to jumbling up the patterns, just looking at the standalone spot nose. So So take a look at this. You can actually take the spot nose, mix it in with Leopard, and take a look at the crazy combination between these two jeans. And it seems like, you know, more and more of what I really like is I like the dark, you know, kind of the darkening effect of the Leopard combined with some of these other jeans, because you get a really scrambled up pattern, and when you get the really dark background, it seems like it really makes it pop, and just, that is a crazy combination. If you actually take a look at the head, this head stamp is pretty much from the spot nose, so you can definitely tell you have spot nose in the mix just from the head stamp. And I haven't even actually looked at this. As a matter of fact, this is a 66% het clown. A lot of people actually try to work the spot nose Leopard into the clown, which is known as the Batman, if you're actually going for the Batman. And these are pretty expensive. This one is $750, not too bad for a crazy snake like that. So take a look at this. This is actually the Leopard spot nose with the addition of Anchi. So you keep stacking on these pattern enhancing jeans, and you can make some of the craziest combinations. It's pretty amazing. So you take the Leopard spot nose, which really jumbles up the pattern and really darkens the background, and then you add Anchi on top. And essentially what the Anchi does is it reduces the pattern. It's definitely a pattern enhancing jean, and you get this crazy looking snake. Look at the head stamp on this one. It almost looks like a little clover or something right on top of the head. And these are some crazy looking snakes once you start stacking on all these pattern enhancing jeans. So here's another one that is really affordable. As a matter of fact, if you're thinking about getting into a really affordable pattern enhancing jean, you can actually work towards the Super Pastel with 2 copies of the Pastel. As a matter of fact, I actually did a video on the Super Pastel looking at all the different combinations working other jeans into Super Pastel. And let me tell you, there's pretty much nothing that looks bad when you work it into Super Pastel. You can make some amazing combinations. So take a look at this. You can start stacking some jeans. This is actually the Super Pastel with the addition of Leopard. Look at how crazy that is. And if you actually look back at the Super Pastel, a lot of times it'll have kind of a repeating pattern through. It's really jumbled up, and sometimes it'll actually have a little bit of lightning effect here and there. Usually with the Super Pastels too, you have kind of this lighter head. And once you add Leopard to it, take a look at this. It really just stretches out and scrambles up the pattern, and it really darkens the background. It really works really well together with the Leopard and the Super Pastel. I actually pulled up a couple more combinations with the stacked jeans. Take a look at this one. This is actually a Super Pastel spot nose Leopard. So this is the last snake with the addition of spot nose. And look at what spot nose does to the pattern on that snake. Pretty amazing. And sometimes when you look, you're kind of looking at reptile shows, and a lot of times, you look in the display cases and you see a spot nose by itself, and you don't realize exactly what it is, what the potential of it is, working it into other combinations, especially these other pattern enhancing combinations. And take a look, this is the last one I want to show you. This one is really crazy too. This is the Leopard Anchi Superfly. So this is actually a Super Pastel, which really brightens the color. Then you put Leopard, it really scrambles it up. And probably my favorite combination is between the Leopard and the Pastel, because the Leopard really darkens the background, and then when you have Pastel or Super Pastel, it really makes the yellows pop on the snake. So you get a really high contrast, really dramatic snake. And then the Anchi, it's kind of interesting that the Anchi doesn't have more of an effect on this, and it's like completely scrambled up. That is a pretty amazing color. As a matter of fact, I don't think that one would be too expensive. This one also has, this is actually a Super Fly, so it has fire in the mix too. And I'm kind of surprised that the fire doesn't lighten it a little bit more too. That is a crazy snake. This one actually sold for $700. Pretty amazing combination. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Dave Mallon asks, how can you tell if you have blackhead in your lavender albino? And that's a very good question. So essentially what the blackhead is, it's a dark gene. It's pretty much the darkest of the dark. A lot of times if you actually mix blackhead with other combinations, you really get a darkening effect of the background. It's really visually dominant. And kind of the interesting thing is when you work it into the lavender albino, it doesn't have any darkening effect at all. It pretty much completely disappears. You can hardly tell that the blackhead is in there, although I have seen in a lot of blackhead albino combinations, essentially what happens is you get a reduction of the amount of yellow in your lavender albino or your regular albino. So essentially what happens is you have, the albino is pretty much like a yellow and white snake. And a lot of times the pattern of yellow kind of reduces and the amount of white increases on the snake, which is kind of an interesting effect. As a matter of fact, pretty much the same thing happens with black pastel. I've seen a lot of black pastel albinos that are really high white albinos, kind of a weird effect. I've actually seen one that was a black pastel blackhead albino, which is kind of crazy. It really is super reduced as far as the yellow, and it's a really high white albino. That's pretty much the only way you can tell that you have blackhead or black pastel in your combination. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.